Pixar, The Good Dinosaur, Storybook Deluxe. In a world where dinosaurs never went extinct, it was a very special day. 3 baby apatosauruses were born on a farm at the foot of Clawtooth Mountain. Libby hatched first, then Buck, and finally little Arlo, who was afraid to leave the safety of his egg. As they grew up, Libby and Buck worked hard and earned their marks on the family silo. Arlo longed to earn his mark too, but his fears kept getting in the way. One night, Papa took Arlo into a dark field. Papa didn't want Arlo's fear to keep him from seeing the beauty in the world. So Papa swiped his tail in the grass, and something amazing happened. Trace your finger off the grass to see what happens.
Fear to see the beauty on the other side.
The next day, Papa asked Arlo to take care of the critter who'd been eating their corn. Arlo was determined to earn his mark, so he worked hard to set a trap for the critter.
Good. Now hitch it up in that tree. That's it. Now pull the trap up onto that. You're doing fine. All right. We're almost done. Just gotta hang the rattle so we'll hear that good work. When that critter's taken care of, you'll put your mark on the silo right next to mine.
The trap worked, and the critter was caught. Arlo tried to be brave, but he didn't want to hurt the critter. Arlo hesitated, and the critter got away. Papa was upset. He and Arlo went searching for the critter as the sky darkened with rain. The river began to rise, and the ground rumbled. Suddenly, they saw a flash flood approaching. Papa had just enough time to get Arlo to safety before the flood swept him away. Papa was gone, and the family had to work even harder without him. Arlo looked sadly at Papa's footprint as he filled the silo with corn. Help Arlo fill the silo with corn. Make sure to fling the corn at the correct angle. Nicely done. Careful, that's it. done. Watch out! That's it. Careful. Nicely done. You should be proud. Suddenly, Arlo heard crunching. The critter chased the critter, and they both fell into the river. Arlo gasped as the river pulled him under. Arlo washed up on an unfamiliar shore. He called out for Mama, and then he heard a howl from above. It was the critter. Arlo was furious. He thought this was all the critter's fault. Arlo struggled up the cliff. Arlo reached the top, but he had no idea how to get home. Then he saw the river and remembered Papa's words.
As long as you can find the river, you can find your way home.
Arlo followed the river, but he was hungry. He spotted berries in a tree and tried to reach them. Then he slipped and got stuck under a rock. After a long and scary night, Arlo awoke to find he'd been freed. But how? It began raining, and Arlo knew he had to build a shelter. And that wouldn't be easy. Help Arlo build a shelter from the rain. Nicely done. Good job. Good job. You did it! The critter appeared again. It could see that Arlo was hungry and offered him some food. Try giving these items to Arlo. They went to find more food. Arlo was still angry with the critter, but then it protected Arlo from a scary, snake-like creature. Arlo started to wonder if the critter wasn't so bad after all. Then Arlo heard a strange voice. It was a Styracosaurus who collected creatures with fearsome names. He challenged Arlo to a contest. Whoever named the critter would keep him. Arlo cried out the name Spot, and the critter took to it. Arlo had won. The Styracosaurus could see that Arlo and Spot shared a bond. He told Arlo that Spot would keep him safe.
This is Dream Crusher. He protects me from having unrealistic goals. This is Destructor. She protects me from mosquitoes. This is Fury. He protects me from the creatures that crawl in the night. And this is Debbie.
Now Arlo and Spot were working together. They even found time to have some fun. Try to get as many gophers as you can. Nicely done. Nicely done. Good job. Nicely done. That night, Arlo grew sad. He missed Papa. Arlo drew a circle around 5 sticks, a portrait of his family. Spot understood. He circled 3 sticks, then covered 2 with dirt. Arlo covered Papa's stick with dirt. He and Spot looked up at the stars and howled together. The morning brought a huge storm. Arlo was terrified, and he ran for cover, losing sight of the river. After the storm, Arlo was completely lost. He asked some passing pterodactyls for directions, but the leader, Thunderclap, tried to steal Spot. Help Arlo dodge the pterodactyls. Good job! Woo! Nicely done. That's it.
Yeah!
Good job. Good job. Just as the pterodactyls caught up to Arlo, some fearsome Tyrannosaurus Rexes appeared. The T-Rexes roared and chased the pterodactyls away. Nash, Ramsey, and their father Butch turned out to be friendly ranchers who had lost their herd of longhorns. The T-Rexes agreed to help Arlo find his way home, if Spot could sniff out their missing longhorns. Spot tracked down the gang of rustlers who had stolen the herd. Arlo was afraid to get the rustlers' attention, so Spot helped. The rustlers appeared, and then the T-Rexes sprang their trap on the thieving raptors. Arlo was scared, but he helped chase the raptors away. That night, the T-Rexes swapped scar stories around the fire. Butch's fight with a giant croc had left him with a mean scar and one of the croc's teeth. Butch admitted to Arlo that he had been scared during the fight, but he pushed through his fear.
Listen, kid, you can't get rid of fear. But you can get through it. You can find out what you're made of.
The next morning, Arlo and Spot helped the T-Rexes herd the longhorns. Help Arlo make his way to the front of the herd. Jump over anything that comes along. That was some great herding. Soon, Clawtooth Mountain appeared in the distance. Arlo was almost in sight. Arlo and Spot were overjoyed. They howled in excitement. But then, someone returned their howls. Arlo was worried that Spot seemed interested in the stranger. So Arlo picked him up and headed for home. Suddenly, some familiar shapes appeared. The pterodactyls! And they wanted Spot. Help Arlo dodge the pterodactyls. Well done. As hard as he tried, Arlo couldn't fight off the pterodactyls forever. They snatched Spot and flew into the storm. Arlo chased after them, but he fell and hit his head. When Arlo looked up, he saw someone approaching. It was Papa. Arlo was thrilled until he realized that Papa wasn't leaving footprints. Papa wasn't really there. Arlo knew he had to head into the storm, even though it was dangerous, because of his love for Spot. And Arlo knew that Papa would be proud of him.
I knew you had it in you. You're me and more. I knew you had it in you. You're me and more.
As the storm got worse, Arlo tracked down Spot and confronted the pterodactyls. There was a nasty struggle, but Arlo managed to knock most of them into the river. Then he let out a mighty roar, scaring Thunderclap away. river began to rise, and the ground rumbled. Arlo trembled in fear. He knew a flood was coming, but his love for Spot steadied his nerves. Arlo leaped to shield Spot from the oncoming flood. Help Arlo rescue Spot as fast as you can. Hurry! You did it! Arlo caught up to Spot just in time to protect him as they went over a huge waterfall. Soon they reached the shore. Arlo was relieved when Spot opened his eyes. They were both okay. They were almost home when a familiar howl sounded. The stranger had returned with his whole family. Arlo knew what he had to do. It wasn't easy, but Arlo said goodbye to Spot. Arlo finally reached the farm. He was back home, and his family was overjoyed to see him. He pressed his foot to the silo. Arlo had taken care of the critter and earned his mark.
At 118 years old, Dracula's beloved daughter Mavis found her zing when Johnny, a human backpacker, stumbled into their hotel for monsters, Hotel Transylvania. Despite Johnny's lack of fangs and Mavis's full vampire genes, 7 years later, the two, Mavis, now 125 years old, and Johnny, 28, fell madly in love and decided to get married. Later, they had a baby, Dennis. Vampa-Drac insisted on calling him by his vampire name, Denisovich. Johnny's human family and Dracula's monster friends loved the new addition. But was the baby human or vampire?
Technically, you have until you're 5 to get your vampire fangs.
Wayne the werewolf explained. Frankenstein, Murray the mummy, Griffin the invisible man, and Blobby agreed.
Oh, he'll get his fangs. He's a Dracula.
Drac bragged. Years passed at Hotel Transylvania, and things changed. Humans and monsters learned to coexist. Mavis was a doting mom. She baby-proofed the hotel and fed Dennis only avocados. Drac hated this type of coddling. especially Dennis's favorite video series, Cakey the Cake Monster. The concerned Vampa constantly checked Dennis's mouth for signs of fangs.
Dad, please, he's practically 5 already. Don't force it.
Unlike Drac, Mavis did not mind if Dennis turned out to be human. Other monster kids at the hotel didn't care that Dennis was fang-free. Winnie, a girl wolf pup, was head over tail in love with Dennis. At a werewolf birthday party, Winnie gave her crush a big hug.
Dennis, I love you, zing!
She exclaimed, knocking Dennis to the ground. Dennis was having a blast. Then, during a frenzied bout of musical chairs, Dennis's tooth was knocked out.
Oh, yes, indeed. Here comes the fang.
Dracula predicted. Mavis blamed herself for putting Dennis into such a dangerous situation.
This is Denisevich's home,
Dracula said. He tried to convince Mavis that, monster or not, the boy needed to get used to a little roughhousing. Mavis did not agree.
We've been talking about moving. Somewhere safer for Dennis. Maybe where Johnny grew up in California. I'm sorry, but you can't just make somebody something they're not.
Drac's friends agreed that too many cakey videos and avocados stunted Dennis's adult fang growth.
So maybe you gotta get the kid around more monster-y things.
Ooh, Frank suggested. Drac's eyes lit up. What a great idea. He would send Johnny and Mavis on vacation. Then, Drac and his monster friends would have Dennis all to themselves for scary monster activities, and Dennis would be sure to sprout fangs. Mavis agreed to a trip to California to see if Johnny's hometown was a good place to raise Dennis. After Mavis and Johnny were whisked to the airport, another hearse pulled up to the hotel. Drac, Dennis, Frankenstein, Wayne, Murray, and Griffin all rushed to the vehicle. Blobby couldn't fit inside, so he rode a rascal alongside. The gang was off, determined to bring out Dennis's inner monster. Each monster tried to show Dennis how they used to scare humans. Frankenstein jumped out of the bushes to freak out 2 joggers. Unfortunately, Frank was so famous that the joggers were excited to see him. They even asked for a photo, so Frank happily took a selfie with them as Dennis devoured an avocado. Then it was up to Wayne and Murray to show Dennis how scary monsters behave. But a frisbee distracted Wayne from chasing down a deer, and Murray threw out his back trying to conjure a sandstorm. The trip was almost over, and Dennis showed no trace of fangs.
Hey, you know who can fix the kid in a snap? Vlad.
Frankenstein offered. Drac refused to consider calling his dad.
What? We don't need to call Vlad. We got this.
Determined as ever, Drac led the group to the top of a rickety tower. The other monsters tried to object, but Drac wasn't having it.
Quiet. This is how they learn. You throw them and they figure it out. It's how I was taught.
Dracula tossed Dennis off the tower and he plummeted toward the ground with no sign of flight. Dracula flew off and saved Dennis just in time. A passerby filmed it, and the video went viral. In California, Mavis and Johnny watched in horror as their son nosedived to the tune of a silly Dracula remix. They raced home to see their son.
I was worried Dennis wasn't safe around other monsters. Now I don't even feel like he's safe around you.
Mavis scolded her father.
We'll have his birthday party here on Wednesday. Then we're moving.
Mavis stormed off, Johnny trailing behind her. At dinner that night, Mavis announced she'd invited Vlad to Dennis's party. She wanted Dennis to meet her Vampa before the move. Dracula forced a smile.
Sure, great. Peachy, good old Vlad.
Dracula realized he had to hide Dennis's half-human side from his old-school human-hating father. He convinced Mavis and Johnny to have a costume party for Dennis's 5th birthday celebration, where all the humans would dress as monsters. A mean-looking crony named Bella entered the corridor of a dark cave with an envelope, the invitation to Dennis's party. Vlad emerged from the darkness and opened it.
Holy rabies. He finally invites me to something. He's got a grandkid?
And he never told you?
Bella roared.
Easy, Bella. At least there's another vampire in the family.
Vlad read on.
It's at a hotel? Fancy schmancy.
Dennis's family and friends all gathered at Hotel Transylvania for the party. Dennis was really excited to see his friends, especially Winnie the werewolf pup and Cakey the cake monster, who Mavis booked as entertainment. Outside, Vlad arrived with Bella.
You know what? Just wait outside for me. This is family stuff. You'll only get in the way.
Bella fumed with anger. Vlad entered the party as Bella spied through a window. Drac was plotting with Johnny, who was decked out in full vampire garb, when Vlad entered the ballroom.
All right, there's my vamp son.
Vlad swooped up Dennis and immediately realized his vamp son was a late fanger, like his own boy.
Yes, just like me.
Dracula admitted. Vlad devised a plan to scare the fangs out of Dennis. They would possess something Dennis found sweet and innocent. Drac pointed to Cakey.
That's your guy.
Cakey was dancing on stage.
Hey, kids, it's me, Cakey! What a wonderful cakey day it is! Now I have a question. Who here loves cake?
Drac gave his father the signal. The old-school vampire focused a disgusted glare on syrupy Cakey.
Rise,
Vlad commanded. Cakey floated off the ground, levitating in the air. Drac turned to the confused birthday boy.
Scary, huh, Denisovich? You feeling anything? Any change?
Dennis was concerned.
Is Kiki okay?
Cakey was not okay. He was spinning in full circles, his eyes were bulging, and cakes were hurling rapidly out of his mouth. Panicked guests were pelted and covered with crumbs and icing. Dennis jumped into Dracula's arms.
I'm scared, Papa. What's happening to Kiki?
Dracula couldn't watch his precious grandson suffer any longer.
Stop it!
He commanded. Cakey returned to normal.
Hey, what did you just do? A few more seconds and the kid's fangs would have popped right out.
Vlad reprimanded.
I don't care. It's not worth it.
Dracula countered.
What's not worth it?
Mavis interjected. Dracula tried to explain the party possession, but a huge fight came to a head between all the adults. Dennis ran away from the fighting and out of the hotel, with Winnie close behind. The only creature that saw the two children flee the party was the angry Bella. Dennis was in tears as he sprinted into the woods.
Dennis, where are you going?
Winnie asked with concern.
Away.
Dennis cried.
But it's not safe out here by ourselves. I know a place where we can hide. Follow me.
Winnie led Dennis to the dog fort, where they hid high up in a tree. Without warning, the roof was suddenly ripped off the fort. Bella stared down at the terrified kids.
Well, well, well. The little human and his pet!
The families finally realized the kids were missing. Drac blamed himself for putting Dennis in danger. Vlad shook his head.
You're a fool.
Drac snapped back at Vlad.
Your great-grandson is the sweetest, kindest, most special boy I've ever met. And if you can't give him the love he deserves because he's half human, then you're the fool.
Dracula was sick with worry about Dennis.
Where could he be?
Bella had Dennis and Winnie in his clutches. Winnie bit Bella's hand, and Bella flung Winnie off, throwing her to the ground. Dennis was enraged. His eyes transformed to a fierce red, and he sprouted beautiful sharp fangs as he transformed into a bat. Exploding with vampire power, Dennis roared with a booming vibration that hurled Bella into a tree. Dennis's howl echoed through the woods, loud enough for the worried families to find the kids. Bella tried to run when he saw Drac and the gang approaching. Before he could, Vlad burst to the front of the group and froze Bella in his tracks.
Don't ever come near me or my family again.
Dracula was overwhelmed with a new love and respect for his father. Dennis ran to his vampa.
Papa Drac, I'm a vampire and a superhero. Am I cool now?
Dracula embraced Dennis, so happy to be reunited.
Dennis, you were always cool. Human, vampire, unicorn, you're perfect no matter what.
Grateful to be safe and reunited, the group returned to Hotel Transylvania to continue Dennis's 5th birthday celebration. When Mavis called out,
Let me hear you sing!
Everyone joyfully sang happy birthday to Dennis. Then ate cake, surrounded by loving family and friends, both human and monster. The end.
The Viking island of Berk was a very special village with very special pets. Dragons. Dragons and Vikings did not always get along. After years of fearing the winged creatures, a young Viking named Hiccup befriended and trained a dragon named Toothless. Toothless was a rare dragon called a Night Fury, and Hiccup's best friend. Of course, this started a trend. 5 years later, everyone wanted a dragon of their own. Hiccup had grown into an accomplished and intelligent Viking. He had also scored the girlfriend of his dreams, the fearless Astrid. Hiccup's father, Stoic the Vast, was the chief of Berk. Stoic couldn't wait to pass on the role of chief to his son, but Hiccup worried that he wasn't ready to lead the village. One day, Hiccup and Toothless were soaring through the sky with Astrid and her dragon, Stormfly. Suddenly, a giant net rocketed right at them. Astrid leapt off of Stormfly's back and onto Toothless, avoiding the flying web. But Stormfly was caught. The net pulled Stormfly onto a ship occupied by dragon trappers. Toothless was determined to save his friend. He descended onto the boat with a ferocious roar. The head trapper, Eret, son of Eret, was overcome with greed. Soil my britches. That is a Night Fury. Drago Bloodfist will pay us handsomely to add one of those to his dragon army. But Eret's delight soon turned to dread. Toothless spit fiery blasts at the trappers. They dove fearfully out of the way. Hiccup freed Stormfly by cutting the net with his flaming sword, the Dragon Blade. As the four friends made a swift escape, they heard Eret shouting a final threat. Enjoy those dragons while you can! Drago is coming for them all! That evening, Stoic had planned to declare Hiccup the new chief. But Hiccup had something more pressing to report. They were dragon trappers. The guy they work for is building a dragon army. Dargo Bloody Fist or something. Drago Bloodfist. Recognizing the name, Stoic turned ghostly pale. Get the dragons into their pens, he commanded. We must prepare for war. Drago is coming for our dragons, Hiccup disagreed. We have to find him and change his mind. The chief sighed. Some minds can't be changed. Years ago, Drago Bloodfist attacked a gathering of chieftains. He commanded an army of armored dragons to descend from the sky, torching everything in their path. Men who do terrible things without reason cannot be reasoned with. Maybe he can't be reasoned with, but I'm still going to try. Hiccup jumped onto Toothless's back. Stoic pleaded for his son to stay and guard the people of Berk. Remember, Hiccup, a chief protects his own. But Hiccup ignored his father's advice. The pair tore off defiantly into the night sky. Hiccup and Toothless were racing through the sky when a menacing silhouette of a figure riding a dragon appeared. Without warning, Toothless and Hiccup were swept up by the talons of the masked rider's dragon and carried into the darkness. They emerged in a cavernous chamber filled with hundreds of exotic dragons. Hiccup faced his captor. "Who are you?" he demanded. The rider slowly revealed her face. A mother never forgets. Hiccup could not believe his eyes. It was his mother, Volca. Stoic and Hiccup had always believed that she had died during a dragon raid when Hiccup was a baby. "You've been here for 20 years? "Yes," Volca confirmed. "I always believed that dragons were intelligent, gentle creatures, but no one else on Berk thought peace was possible. I worried that if I returned home with my dragon friends, I would put my family in danger." "If only I had known that you took after me, that my son is also a protector of dragons." Hiccup took in his surroundings. "This is Dragon Mountain," explained Valka, "home of the great Bewilderbeast. He protects us. We all live under his command. All but the dragon babies," she laughed, "who listen to no one." Days had passed since Hiccup's departure, and the Vikings on Berk were becoming concerned. "I don't like it. He should have been back by now," worried Astrid. "What if Drago shot them down? What if they've been captured? We have to find them. Come on!" Astrid led her friends to the only person she knew who could take them to Drago. On the trapper's ship, Eret was getting nervous. "We need to deliver Drago some dragons fast!" A swoosh from above rocked the mighty vessel. "Careful what you wish for!" Astrid and Stormfly swooped onto the deck with an army of Vikings and dragons in tow. "This is a kidnapping! Show us the way to Drago!" Eret led the gang to a massive flotilla, but they did not arrive unseen. Darts flew through the air, striking and paralyzing the Vikings' dragons. But Astrid refused to give up hope. "Hiccup will save us. He is the greatest dragon master in the world." Drago was enraged. "I alone control the dragons. Pull anchor. We finish what we came for, then we finish Berk." On Dragon Mountain, Hiccup told Volca about his plan to reason with Drago. "This is great! Now you and I can go talk to Drago together. We have to find him. He's coming for our dragons!" Hiccup exclaimed. "Drago is an evil man. He cannot be reasoned with," Volca assured her son. "The Bewilderbeast will keep us safe. He is the Alpha species and king of all dragons." Heavy booms reverberated through Volca's fortress. Volca and Hiccup rushed outside, only to find Drago's armada swarming the lagoon below. His forces covered the beach, and catapults were taking down the mountain's icy defenses. "Whatever comes, keep hitting the mountain. We need to draw the Alpha out," Drago commanded. Astrid and her team of dragon riders escaped from Drago's ship and joined the battle. Volca soared through the towering spikes of ice on her dragon, Cloud Jumper. An earth-trembling roar shook the mountain as the Bewilderbeast rose behind her. Drago was delighted. "The Alpha! Now we have a fight!" "You cannot take our dragons," Volca yelled. "They are controlled by the Alpha." "Then it's a good thing I brought a challenger," Drago snarled. A massive chain rose from the water and torpedoed toward the surface. It was a second Bewilderbeast. With a devastating swipe, Drago's Bewilderbeast defeated Volca's and became the new Alpha. In its first act as the Alpha, Drago's Bewilderbeast let out a massive bellow, calling all of the Vikings' dragons to its side, even Toothless. "Gather the men and meet at Burke," Drago commanded. Hiccup mustered all his courage. "I have a plan," he announced. "We're going back. Drago has all the dragons, but the babies don't listen to anyone, not even the Alpha." Volca led the Vikings to the unruly baby dragons, and they all flew back to Burke. When Hiccup and the others arrived on Burke, all of Burke's dragons had fallen under the spell of Drago's evil Bewilderbeast. "Distract the Alpha!" Hiccup shouted. "Try to keep his focus off of Toothless!" Drago rode on the back of Toothless, who was entranced by the Bewilderbeast's power. "He's not yours anymore," Drago snapped, swinging a massive bullhook. "But please, oh great Dragon Master, try and take him." Hiccup looked Toothless in the eye. "Please, you are my best friend. I won't leave you. I won't let you go," he pleaded. The loyal dragon snatched the bullhook in his jaws and pulled hard, hurling Drago from his back with a rumbling growl. The vanquished enemy leapt back onto the Bewilderbeast and swam far away into the misty ocean, never to be seen or heard from again. With the evil Alpha gone, the dragons of Burke were all free of his spell. Hiccup embraced his best friend. Toothless's love for Hiccup was stronger than anything in the world, even the control of Drago's bewilderbeast. The citizens of the island applauded Hiccup for his bravery. After defeating Drago, the young heir knew in his heart that he had the courage to make a great leader. Hiccup accepted the title of chief with humility and pride. Hiccup confidently addressed his fellow Vikings for the first time as their chief. We may be small in number, but we stand for something bigger than anything the world can pit against us. Oh, sure, they have armies, and they have armadas, but we have our dragons! The end.
Disney Frozen. Summer had arrived at last in the little kingdom of Arendelle. Even the youngest ice harvesters were hard at work, gathering ice for the warm months ahead. As night set in, they headed home with the northern lights to guide them. Inside the castle, Princess Anna excitedly awoke her older sister Elsa. Together, they sneaked into the Great Hall, where Elsa delighted Anna by creating a magical frozen playground. Rotate your device. Princess Elsa loved using her secret magical powers to create ice and snow right inside the ballroom. Anna loved the slides, the snowballs, the snowman. It was all fun. Until Elsa slipped and accidentally hit Anna with her powers. Frightened, Elsa cried out to her parents for help. Anna didn't remember getting hurt that day, or that the king and queen took her to the trolls. She just remembered all the fun she'd had with Elsa. When Elsa heard that the trolls had healed Anna, she was overjoyed. But Elsa also found out that her powers, though beautiful, were dangerous. She would have to hide her magic forever, even from Anna. Days went by, then weeks. Anna missed Elsa. Elsa never came out of her room to play anymore. Anna tried to play by herself, but she was still very lonely. Elsa's parents gave her gloves to control her feelings and her powers. They shut the castle gates to protect Elsa's secret, and Elsa avoided her sister, so she would never hurt Anna again. Years went by. Finally, Elsa's coronation day arrived. Anna loved seeing the gates open. It was so exciting to meet the guests, especially Prince Hans. He was handsome and, well, fun. Elsa was old enough to be queen, but she was worried about the ceremony. Alone, she practiced taking off her gloves and froze everything she touched. Anna couldn't stop thinking about Hans. Then, when she saw Elsa crowned queen, Anna wanted to clap and cheer. She was so happy. And later, Elsa actually talked to her. Elsa was relieved to get through the ceremony without freezing anything with her bare hands. As soon as she became queen, she put her gloves back on, and even greeted guests with Anna. When Anna saw Hans again at the ball, they danced the night away. Then he asked her to marry him. And yes, she said yes. But when Anna approached her sister, the queen, Elsa didn't seem happy at all. Elsa could not believe Anna wanted to marry Prince Hans. Anna hardly knew him. The new queen refused her sister's request. Elsa only wanted to protect Anna. As Elsa walked away, Anna reached out and accidentally pulled off her sister's glove. Ice shot from Elsa's hand and spiraled across the room. Without intending to, Elsa froze nearly everything in sight. Anna stared in awe. She hadn't meant to upset Elsa. Anna felt terrible. Elsa had lost control of her powers, of her feelings. She couldn't stop freezing things. Fearing that she might hurt someone, Elsa fled. Anna needed to help her sister, and she needed Elsa to thaw out their kingdom. Everyone was panicking. Leaving Prince Hans in charge, Anna raced after Elsa up into the mountains. But she didn't get far. High above her kingdom and free at last, Elsa created an incredible ice palace. For the first time since she was a little girl, Elsa felt like her true self. Summer was definitely gone. Everywhere. Anna stopped at Oaken's trading post, the only warm place in the middle of nowhere. She met an ice harvester named Kristoff, who knew where the coldest mountain was, which meant maybe he could help find Elsa. Kristoff's best friend was his reindeer, Sven. He even spoke for Sven, and that was weird, but okay, except that Kristoff almost refused to help Anna. So Anna put her foot down and told him she knew how to stop the sudden winter. When he heard that, Kristoff agreed to help. Soon the trio met a talking snowman named Olaf. Funny, Anna remembered him from her childhood. And wow, she was amazed by all the other frozen things Elsa had created. I'm Anna.
And who's the...
At last, Anna reached Elsa's extraordinary ice palace. Kristoff waited outside with Olaf and Sven so that Anna could have some time alone with Elsa. Anna was surprised when Elsa greeted her. She looked so different. And they were talking. Maybe they could do that in Arendelle, too. But first, the winter had to stop, and Elsa needed to make that happen. Elsa loved seeing Anna, but told her that she had to leave. Elsa worried she'd hurt her sister again. When Anna said that Arendelle was frozen, Elsa was shocked. Lives were in danger, and Elsa didn't know how to fix it. Anna could see that Elsa was upset. She tried to help, but Elsa seemed out of control. Anna watched helplessly as several icy blasts exploded from Elsa's hands. One of them hit Anna. Elsa panicked. She didn't know how to stop winter, and she didn't know how to stop hurting people. Elsa created a giant snowman to show Anna and her friends out. But when Anna accidentally aggravated him, the snowman chased them. Anna and Kristoff ran and escaped over a cliff with Olaf and Sven. Alone in her ice palace, Elsa tried to regain control over her powers. She loved her freedom, but she hadn't meant to harm her sister or freeze Arendelle. Don't feel. Kristoff took Anna to the trolls. The trolls said that Elsa had put ice in Anna's heart. That meant Anna would freeze forever without an act of true love. True love. Anna needed Hans. Elsa was alone in her ice palace when Hans and some other men arrived, looking for Anna. Elsa tried to escape, to hide, but the men attacked her, forcing her to defend herself. Elsa was taken back as a prisoner to Arendelle. After Kristoff helped her get home, Anna found Hans, but he refused to kiss her. Hans didn't really love Anna. All along, he had just wanted to take over as king of Arendelle. Anna felt hopeless as Hans left her alone to freeze. In Arendelle's prison, Elsa knew that she had to get away for her kingdom's safety. She felt her emotions getting out of control. The walls froze and cracked, and Elsa blasted out of the cell. Olaf found Anna and told her that it was Kristoff who truly loved her. If Anna could find Kristoff, then she might be saved. Kristoff was racing back to find her right now. Out in the storm, Hans told Elsa that her actions had destroyed Anna. Heartbroken, Elsa sank to her knees. Hans raised his sword. Racing across the fjord, Anna spotted Kristoff. At the same moment, she also saw Hans. He was going to hurt Elsa. In a final act to save her sister, Anna threw herself between Hans and Elsa. Hans' sword struck Anna. Elsa heard the sound of a sword shattering behind her. Anna had thrown herself in Hans's way to save Elsa. Slowly, Anna felt some warmth flowing through her frozen body and heart. By saving Elsa, Anna had performed an act of true love. This was the true love that the trolls had meant. Filled with sorrow, Elsa wept. She hugged Anna, no longer afraid of expressing her true feelings. And when she felt her sister thaw, Elsa wept for joy. Anna had saved her with her selfless act of love. Anna felt wonderful. She was alive and warm, and Elsa had hugged her. Because of Anna, Elsa realized she could control her powers with love. She thawed the kingdom. She even made a little patch of cold so Olaf could stay and enjoy the summer he had always wanted. Hans was taken away, but Kristoff decided to stay near Anna for a while. Queen Elsa approved. Later, Elsa created a bit of winter for herself and lots of summer for everyone else. She even opened the gates to the kingdom. Anna was pleased. So was Elsa. Together, the two sisters decided that they would never close the kingdom gates again.
Surly Squirrel was a schemer. an outcast. The only thing he cared about was himself, which is why his only friend in all of Liberty Park was a rat named Buddy. One day, Surly raided a nut cart, hoping to steal the goodies inside. But he accidentally caused the cart to go up in flames and shoot through Liberty Park like a fireball. The furry residents of the park watched as the flaming cart rocketed right into the old oak tree where their winter food was stored. Every last morsel was destroyed, and it was all Surly's fault. Unfortunately for Surly, this wasn't the first time he had caused trouble. The park's leader, Raccoon, put the squirrel's fate to a vote.
All those in favor of banishment, raise your paws,
Raccoon demanded. It was unanimous. Surly had to go. Surly was forced out into the busy streets of Oakton, with Buddy close behind. There was danger everywhere, from honking cars to rat thugs. But their luck turned around when they came upon a glittering sign, Maury's Nut Shop. Maury's Nut Shop was packed with every delicious nut imaginable.
Buddy, we found it!
The lost city of Nutlantis, Surly exclaimed, shedding tears of joy. With the park's winter supply gone, a brave squirrel named Andy went on a mission to find food in the city. After a dangerous journey, she came upon Maury's Nut Shop. Andy was delighted. There was enough to feed the whole park for years. Surly wasn't known for his willingness to share, but Andy finally convinced him. Surly agreed to split half the nuts with the park animals. Maybe he would be allowed to go back home. After all, he would be a hero. Andy brought a few animals from the park to help with Surly's scheme, the nut job.
We'll dig into the basement,
he told them.
We're talking almonds, pistachios, walnuts, Brazils, honey roasted. Did I mention the peanut brittle?
The nut job team didn't know it, but the shop was owned by a group of gangsters. Their get-rich-quick scheme was to dig a tunnel to the bank across the street, blow a hole into the vault, and then steal all the money. We'll put bags of nuts in the vault, seal it, and head out of town, the boss explained. It'll be days before the bank realizes they've got peanuts on deposit. Meanwhile, Raccoon feared that if the nut job worked, he would lose control of the park. Raccoon was so hungry for power that he had been starving his own citizens for years.
If the animals can get their own food, they'll realize that they don't need me.
Raccoon hired a gang of rats to capture Surly and sabotage the nut job. But as soon as the rats had Surly in their claws, the ground shook and smoke billowed up. The gangsters were blasting into the bank. Surly took advantage of the chaos and got away. Surly and his team hid in the gangsters' van. They watched as the thieves opened the money bags and shouted, "There's no money! Nothing but nuts!" nuts! We've been had! The gangster boss had tricked his team and made off with all of the money. There was an epic car chase through Oakton as the gangsters raced after their boss. From inside the van, the nutjob team heard the wails of police sirens. The cops caught the boss, but the gangsters got away. The animals breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, Raccoon swung into the van and pounced on Surly.
This is our opportunity to rid the park of this villain,
Raccoon cried, ready to toss Surly out of the speeding van. I call for a vote, Andy shouted. All those in favor of banishing Raccoon, raise your paws. It was unanimous. Raccoon had to go. The team tossed Raccoon out of the van and into the Oakton River with a splash. That gave Surly an idea. The nutjob team pushed the bags of nuts into the water and rode them downstream into Liberty Park. The animals were home safe, with enough food to last for years, all thanks to Surly. The animals were grateful to the former outcast, especially Andy. You risked your life to save this park, she said. Come back and live with us again. But Surly refused. I'm going to keep finding food for this park, but I'll do it my way, Surly told her. Deal? Andy was sad, but understood. Deal, she replied. The next morning, the animals in the park celebrated the many years of full bellies they had to look forward to. No one knew that Surly was watching from afar, smiling, and planning his next nut job.